Counselor Accents Podcast. Two school counselors who love their jobs. Oh, and they happen to have Southern accents too. Bless their hearts.
I'm Laura Rankhorn.
And I am Kim Crumley, and together we are Counselor Accents, two school counselors who are in the trenches with you.
We know what you're going through because we're living it every single day.
So good to see you, Laura.
And you. I think we just need to address the elephant in the room.
Please.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Rip it off.
There are a couple of things in this life that you can set your watch by. One of them would be Old Faithful erupting every day at 1 p.m. or whatever time it is.
Okay.
Okay. What's something else?
I love that was where you went with, because you've never even been there or seen Old Faithful. But that's gonna be where you're going. Okay.
Okay. What's something else you can set your watch by?
You can set taxes, death and taxes.
Good one. Yes.
But I don't think you can set your watch by death, but you can taxes, April 15th.
Did you say death? I must have been.
Death and taxes. I think those are two things you can be certain of.
And you can't avoid. Yeah.
Okay.
But
it's same analogy.
Yeah. And then the third thing that I would say you could set your watch by is us. You and I are going to disappear around this time every year without any explanation.
It's just falling off the earth.
It doesn't matter how many weeks of podcasts we recorded ahead of time.
April,
we're out.
We are in our testing mode for we are the BTCs, which is, as we know, is if you're not having to do that, good for you. You've advocated correctly and maybe got out of this. But we obviously have not, and we are still testing, and among other duties that we have to do in April. And we don't like each other in April.
Can't stand each other.
Cannot stand each other in
April. There are a couple of other months too. If we want to list the other months.
Let's just leave April as first.
Okay.
As the first. That it comes in at top priority of we'll love each other dearly come June.
Yeah.
But April is your peak.
Yeah.
And then so we just disappear.
Yeah, and we apologize.
But it is May, baby.
And we're back
at it. Yeah.
Yeah, here we are.
Here we are.
And it's that time of year. I didn't even tell you this, but I got rear-ended the other day
this is how we've not talked. Like we don't even talk.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, I say rear-ended as if it was a screeching brakes ordeal. It was not. I was at the drive-through at the pharmacy, and all of a sudden my whole body goes forward, and it was pretty dramatic. And this elderly lady behind me had hit my car. And so I got out and I looked at it, and I assured her everything was fine, and her car, which was way nicer than mine, was fine. But it's the time of year where I secretly, every time I stop at a red light, I kind of hope that the person doesn't stop just so I could get a day off with a really good excuse.
Yes, I'm going to have to carry my car in.
Right. Or I am so stiff because I was in a car accident yesterday. So I could have internal bleeding. I'd rather just sit here and rest to make sure. Something like that. But this little tap in the drive-thru didn't do it. So
you just kept going.
I just kept going.
Kept trudging along.
Mm-hmm.
As we have every morning, we get up, we get to work, we come home. It's been quite a month.
Yes.
Now, Laura, we did talk during my episode, my nutritional, when I do something, I go all in. I'm not just like, I will throw everything out. So I was going to eat correctly. And so I threw everything out of the house that was not, and I'm not working up to it. I go straight to, I'm eating a bowl of Captain Crunch to, I am chewing on bark and berries and various wildflowers out in the yard. I decide I want to be that person. And I lost 8 pounds right off the bat. And I mean,
Woo!
I was eating, if it wasn't healthy, I was beginning to, I mean, it was only 1 week.
But
And
still.
I was already dressing. I had quit wearing deodorant and
Oh
I
boy.
was floating around with all the people. Well, because I wasn't eating anything that would, I was one of those people. Like if it was just all natural, all good for you. But Southerners should never
No.
try to eat that healthy, especially that. There has to be kind of a process to get there instead of cold turkey. So I overfibered one night,
Whew.
and the next day I was laying on my beanbag at school with about 5 teachers hovering over my near death body, planning for my funeral until somebody, the officer, lifted, tried to get me off the beanbag, and they walked me to my car, and I drove myself home for the day. It was a midsummer blowout, as they say on Frozen. It was bad.
That's what I referred to my ordeal as.
I'm sorry,
So it
because mine
wasn't
does not
Frozen.
even.
It was me.
It was you, not the movie Frozen.
I
but
didn't know
you,
they got that from me.
from you, yes. So I know I don't have diverticulitis or whatever you have, but I will never. I've gone back to what my body can handle.
Good.
Yes, so I have put that 8 pounds back on,
Okay. You
and I'm
needed
back to
that.
my Captain Crunch. So it was just my body's just like, "Oh, thank you. What were you doing?"
Sugar never did you this way.
Never did me any harm. So, I mean, there are groups of people who can handle this,
Yeah.
but if you are raised as a true Southern fried, sugar it up, everything you eat, your body can't handle it. You're not ready.
Our parents put lard in our baby bottles. And so we've been on it since birth.
Yes,
So
yes.
why would you think that now you could start
I
to
just
do
decided I
later?
was going to be that person, but I'm off, so I'm just letting you know. I'm back to my happiest.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I got a letter from our insurance company, our school insurance. I told you
Yes.
this. And I was nominated, and I was very excited for a weight loss program.
I'm sure it was totally random. It had nothing to do with anything they were looking at.
Yep. So I got very excited. I had to fill out an application, but I thought they contacted me. And so I had to download the app, give them all my information and everything. And then come in a couple of weeks, they said, we're going to start this journey for weight loss. Well, what do you do before a big diet is coming? Well, you load up on everything.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And so
yes.
I have been eating everything that I want.
Sure, because you know that it was fixing to come to an end.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Guess who
What?
wasn't accepted into the program?
Oh, well, now you will be. It's too late. I mean, can you say
I
this
have to
is
wait.
what you caused?
Yeah, I have to wait till next year now. And guess what? I probably put on about 8 pounds too.
Well, keep that weight on, and then you
Until
can get on
next
this
year.
program.
Okay.
Yes, yes. It's so sad when the insurance company's begging. I mean, it's begging.
And then
Please, please lose the weight.
it's like they invited me to the prom and then said, no, I've got somebody else I'm going with. And here I am
they
in
got a little bit
taffeta.
more hanging off the sides than you do, sister, right now. But we're working. We're working
We're
toward
working
that,
on it.
obviously.
Well, we do apologize for just ghosting everyone who may have been listening to our podcasts. And really, that's what our moms, we ghosted our mothers.
Well, and we've ghosted one another, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, you ain't special is what you're trying to say.
No. I mean, it's everybody. I've shut down everybody, but, so I've asked forgiveness also to and you.
Okay, same. I also ask forgiveness of you. Okay, so now that we've cleared the air, what if we just jump in to this podcast?
Let's do it.
Okay.
I'm excited to be back. Let's do it.
Feels good. Kim, you know how long I feel like we have waited to have these guests on today.
Yes,
There
you
have
have have been bursting at the seams.
Yes, and I have made you promises about how wonderful they are, and I can't wait for you to tell me how right I am.
You generally are. You generally are very good at not at a lot of things, but picking guests. You are very, very good.
Thank you.
So we're already enjoying their company already. They just seem like they're from Connecticut. That's what they seem like. That's good, where the cool kids are.
Yeah.
So
So
cool.
We're actually New Yorkers transplanted to Connecticut.
Oh, even cooler. How did they just get
Yeah.
cooler? I didn't think it was possible, and then here they go. Take it to another level.
Did it. Like Laura went from Tennessee to Alabama.
That was
Uncool to it's uncool, all
not
uncool.
considered an upgrade.
Nothing
at all.
cool.
Not an upgrade.
It was the same. It was the same. You basically moved to the same place. So
Anyway, we'll move on before I offend people. But so we want you guys to just
We were just in Nashville.
Oh, isn't it wonderful?
oh, she was just in Nashville. Now you're singing my love language right there. So were y'all just visiting on vacation?
No, we just did a speaking engagement, a presentation in Nashville.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We spoke at the National Association of Independent Schools.
Oh, wow.
Okay. All right.
There last week? Yeah, last week.
I think it was last week that we were there.
Did you enjoy Nashville?
Loved it.
I'm
We
so
did.
glad.
It's
so glad.
wild.
It is.
It's
It is.
wild.
And
Yeah.
that's a compliment coming from transplanted New Yorkers.
That's what I'm thinking.
Wow.
Make it in New York, you can get around in Nashville. So that's pretty cool. Okay. It sounds like you guys are world renowned speakers. So I'm so excited.
So why don't we just get to it? I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, and then we will jump right in with the topic of the day.
Okay. So I'm Eileen.
I am Terry, and together we form Consulted Training and Development
And coaching.
and
Coaching.
coaching as well. But combined, I think the two of us have over 50 years of experience in, over 50 years of experience in education. Yeah. And
It sounds so harsh.
She thought I was attractive.
beautiful, beautiful.
Still
She's
do.
only 20. She's only 20. Looks like she's 20. So I don't know where those years are coming from.
So I'll let Eileen speak for herself and her background. My background in education has been in many different roles. Started out first as a classroom teacher, and then a department chairperson of an academic department in high school, then school counselor, director of school counseling, and also adjunct lecturer at two separate universities, one in counselor education and another one in organizational leadership.
Wow.
Wow.
So he knows what he's talking about, Kim.
I got that. Very impressive.
And my background is similar to yours. I also started out in teaching. I started teaching English to middle school. So I taught middle school and then moved into high school. And through teaching English is really where I made a decision. I started teaching when I got my bachelor's, and I made a decision to go for my master's in counseling because I was working in New York City in the Bronx, and a lot of my students had challenging stories that often came out in their papers that I would read about. And I felt that I wanted to be able to help them in another way than just in the classroom and doing a referral. And I was able to develop relationships with a lot of them, but that's really what made me move into counseling. And then I stayed in high school for the rest of my career, worked as a counselor in high school, was a part of, in New York City, what happened at one point was all the large high schools that were campuses, they broke them down into smaller schools of like 400 students. So you would have multiple schools in one school building that used to have 2,000 students, now had multiple schools. So I was part of two startups and moved with students from ninth grade when they came in through 12th grade when they applied to college. And that brought me to mainly college counseling, which I did for most of my career after that. And then after New York City, I was there for 20 years. And then I went to the private schools as the director of college placement. And from there, I've gone into even more private, where I work privately with students on college applications, and also I do coaching.
Wow. Okay. So you guys are bringing a lot of talent and knowledge and have done those. That was interesting. I always love to hear people's stories because, it's so different everywhere you go. And so when you're talking about this big school in New York, I'm just trying to picture so different from our experiences. I just enjoy this part of the podcast. So I know you guys you speak different places and do consulting. And so Laura was super excited about your presentation that you guys did at ASCA. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Maybe go into some of that for us?
Sure. The presentation, the general topic of the presentation is adolescent development, more specifically, what's going on inside of their brains. And I think
what's going on inside of their brains. I think educating on what's happening inside of their brains, because a lot of times we look at them, especially if we're looking at high school students who look like adults, right? So we're expecting them, and people who work in schools are expecting them to act like adults, but their brains are not adult brains. So a lot of what we present on, we talk about like what's really going on with them, so that the students, parents, whoever we're speaking to, staff or parents, can get a better understanding of really what they're dealing with. And also, I think just some of the myths. We go over some of the common myths about adolescence.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think, Kim, that anything that we talk about is earth-shattering in as much as we ourselves are not researchers, but I think we're eternal students to a large degree.
Yeah.
And constantly reading, absorbing information, and taking a lot of what's out there in neuroscience and educational psychology and applying it. So most of the people who've attended our sessions, and I'm speaking anecdotally, will nod their heads because they're familiar with what we're talking about, but we present the science behind it. Yeah. And then, there's always a story to it. And one of the things that I think professionally attracted me to Eileen was her major originally was English, and I found her to be an unbelievable storyteller. So there are times while we're like the night, if you really want to get a kick out of something, come see us in the hotel room the night before we give a presentation, because she'll be saying things like, they don't want to hear about all that brain stuff. Okay. and you got to let me talk, because
oh my goodness, Laura,
it's like you and me. It's like, yes, it's us.
I'm the brain person. I'm the one that wants to do all the, like the brain stuff is so interesting to me. Yeah. And Laura has to keep me grounded, like,
yes,
and keep it going, because
Uh-oh. I think she froze.
She did freeze.
Well, I think what she's trying to say is that she wants to fit everything in all at once. Like, she's very passionate about teaching everybody everything all at once. And I'm like, let's keep it simple. Let's tell the stories. And yeah, because the stories connect. So that is so funny that we found our match here.
Yeah, we tend to go through that, and I'm very much, and I think it comes from, for me, I think it comes from starting as a classroom teacher, because I taught 90-minute blocks of English when I first started. So I had to learn how to manage 90 minutes of time and keep my kids engaged.
Right. Yes.
So I was always, for all those years in all of my lesson planning and then facilitating in the classroom, I was very practiced at keeping, okay, we have 15 minutes for this, then we're going to move to this for 15 minutes. So I will naturally do that when we're presenting. Whereas Terry can very much go into a subject that he becomes very passionate about and start talking about it, and he's not aware of the time at all.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes.
So did you catch that, Laura? The implication there that one of the two of us is watching the time?
Right.
And speaking of those segments, now were you physically at the session, or did you see was it digital?
I watched it virtually, so I was
Okay.
not there, but I had big regrets once I watched it because I wish I could have been there.
So what we try to do is we try to model the presentation on what you want an adolescent classroom to look like. And as much as Eileen might joke that I can go on for a long time, we really do try to limit what it is that we're saying to maybe 10, 15 minutes.
And then do some type of an interactive activity with them, where they kind of implement what we just went through, right?
Yeah.
So
Whether or not it's reviewing
to reinforce it.
the information, but it's also it's a very social experience.
Mhm.
And that's one of the things that we know about the adolescent brain. It's a very social brain, and it learns best. Information seems to stay in the brain and be processed more deeply in the brain when there's a social and emotional context.
Emotional, yeah, definitely.
And
You know,
what's your yeah,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
I was going to say one of the things that we do in our presentations, I think that really drives that point home is, when we ask people to close their eyes and to say the ABCs,
Uh-huh.
and then we ask them how many of you were singing, and the majority of the audience was singing, and that just to demonstrate that the reason why that happens is because they were kids, they were happy, there was emotional connection, so they learned it as a song, and that's how they remembered it.
That is so true. Because when you said that, I was singing it in my head.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everything that you're saying makes so much sense. And what I love about it is you're talking about teaching teachers about the adolescent brain so that they can understand, like you said at the opening, a lot of times we see these people and we expect them to be at our level, and they're not. They're still learning. And there's a reason for that. Their brain is not fully developed. And so I think it's so valuable, especially as counselors, where we are uniquely positioned to understand what the students, where they are, and understand where the teachers are. And we're sort of the connectors, and we can say, hey, this is why this is happening. And, just helping those teachers understand that they're not always purposely not listening or, whatever.
Right. And to that point, I think because both of us have spent a number of years in the classroom, we really do appreciate the idea that when we're offering context, we're not making excuses.
No, for the kids.
For the kids.
Which is, I don't know, and you've probably experienced this. Sorry, Terry, I cut you off. There are times where that's how it's perceived by teachers, is that we might be, when you're advocating for students, that, you might be taking the side of the student when that's really not what's happening. It's really that you're trying to get them to see a different perspective than the one that they have. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Well, and that is such a powerful distinction too, because you are exactly right. Sometimes we can be seen almost as an enemy because we're advocating so strongly for the students, that the teachers put up the defensive wall. And so I love what you're saying about finding that middle ground.
And it's challenging at times because, part of what we present is and it's not just the case for adolescents. All of us, when we have when we perceive an experience to be highly stressful, a number of different chemicals will flood the system. And for lack of a better expression, we'll just call it adrenaline, stress response hormones. And what we know from the research is that in order for those hormones to begin to decrease, not fully go away, but just to begin to decrease, it takes about 20 minutes. And that's for teens and adults. And this is why even couples therapists strongly recommend that if you're in the heat of an intense discussion and you find yourself being what John Gottman refers to as flooded, that you take a break. And I think many of us as parents also have a very easy time giving young ones timeouts, but we don't do that with ourselves. And one of the greatest classroom interventions is that not only are we giving students breaks when we ask them if they need to get a drink of water or we change subjects, is that we also sort of give ourselves a break to allow those cortisol levels to drop. So that's part of the education that we do with teachers is, if there is an incident where a kid might get disrespectful, we're not making excuses. We're not condoning inappropriate language or anything along those lines. It's here's the context. Here's what was going on.
And and just to piggyback on that, I think also, our message is very much, it's not a punitive intervention, but it's an opportunity for learning, right? And the only way that you're going to create an opportunity for learning and correcting mistakes with adolescents is if, number one, you give them the time and the space to really let that, adrenaline kind of that's, flooding their body or whatever it is that they're upset about, give that the time that it needs for them to kind of calm down. Validate that what they're experiencing, that their feelings are actually, they're valid, whether they're angry or upset or they felt disrespected. But then also that, once you do all of that with them, then you've kind of gained their trust. And that's the time when you can come in with the educational piece with them and helping them to maybe figure out how to react and behave differently than what they just did, because that's not going to take them on a good path. And that's not a productive way to interact with people, in social settings. But until they feel like they've been heard, you can't really do the educational piece with them.
That is so valuable. What you just said is worth everything on this podcast right now today. And it sums it up. No matter what your age is.
We're done.
We're done.
That's
We're
it.
done. That's it. That's it.
No, this is not fair.
Back it up. Next.
I just come on and all I hear was, well, that was it. That was
That's
wonderful. Oh my goodness.
Kim, you've missed so much because
Well, I know. Literally, what happened was my husband's in his office working, and he said he accidentally hit the internet. He turned the internet off accidentally. What is the next point of interest that I'm going to grab hold?
I think where we were was the big piece was sometimes with teachers when we're trying to offer them context for classroom behavior or not turning in an assignment or
Being disrespectful.
sleeping or something along those lines. That context that we offer as school counselors sometimes is misperceived as making excuses or taking the child's side.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of there's the brain piece to it, and then there's the relational piece of do you want to be right in this situation, or are you interested in making a connection with your students? And a big piece that we talk about is, and it's a myth, is that there we can measure and assess for different learning styles, and people have made a lot of money off of these types of assessments where you can give an assessment and determine if somebody is a visual learner and kinesthetic learner, auditory learner. There's not one shred of empirical evidence that supports that. If the only people who don't learn visually are people who are born blind, the only people who don't learn, all of us use those different senses to learn.
Yeah.
But what we know is that when there is an emotional connection, the information is processed and retained in the brain at a much deeper level. And that's the key of that relationship with students. We're not advocating for teachers and educators to be friends with them, but you've got to make a connection with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And maybe we can help in creating that connection.
Do you feel that this is, especially you guys have some connection to the university level? Do you think, and I often feel this way with educators, that we're not putting in this information while they're still learning, and then they get into the classroom. And for our teachers now, our school went all neuroscience. I mean, we're reading the books, we're doing we're all into it.
Okay.
But it's almost like we did it. It's like you get your training. You should be learning this first in college. You should be learning this stuff. But it doesn't matter how often we repeat these same messages to our teachers. You fall back into what you know. It's so easy. And it is easy for me as a middle school counselor to fall back right into being triggered by a middle schooler, but I know that teachers, when you're telling them these things, I mean, these are the things, this is how they learn. So it's almost like we're getting it backwards in education in the university level. They should be learning more about this is how kids are going to behave. This is how they're supposed to behave. This is what you do in middle school, how a middle school brain works. And I'm so shocked at how many educators don't know so I think it's so important what you're saying, more important than ever.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. And I think also, like, if I think back to when I started teaching and how I developed an interest in wanting to work with the kids differently. And I think that is also very much who I am, though. I'm very curious about everything,
Yeah.
So, like, I am always the one who's trying to figure out, how did this work, or how could we do this better? So that's just how I operate.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. I'm fascinated by human beings, and I'm fascinated by human behavior. Like things that other people can just, kind of like walk past. Now, why did they do that though? So I think very differently in that way. And I think that's what drew me to counseling. But I also know that when I'm speaking with teachers, it's important that I, be very cognizant and very respectful of the fact that when I'm working with a student, I might be working in a small group. I might be doing a classroom lesson. And I did a lot of that with college, where I worked with juniors and did sessions for them. But most of the time when I'm dealing with students who are emotionally escalated, I'm working with them one-on-one, right? And that's a very different perspective than a teacher who has 20 to 30 kids in a classroom and, spent a lot of time developing lessons and and has to meet their benchmarks,
Right. Absolutely.
and then they have, and here comes little Johnny, and they were in traffic. And we talked about this at our last presentation. They had traffic on the way to work, got into an argument with their husband, get into the classroom, get a coverage for the school. And now here comes little Johnny, and they've about had it at this point, right?
Yeah.
But we expect them to embrace little Johnny, and whatever's going on with him, the other 30 kids in the room, and teach the lesson. And that's a huge calling, and I think
Absolutely.
to be recognized. And they need that 20 minutes I would say, to even approach them and say, can we talk about little Johnny? I'm not going near them until they've had 20 minutes of a time.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So, I think that that's always in the forefront of my mind, that and as counselors, we are blessed to have that opportunity to really work with students and families and to get a holistic view that the teachers don't have. And honestly, that they might not be interested in, because they just want to teach math.
Yeah.
No, they don't want to understand the brain development. They just want to teach math. So, right? Would
Yeah,
you?
and that's definitely more of that sort of approach, I think works at the university level, the college level,
Mhm.
because the expectations are that we're becoming more skilled, we're becoming more masterful in this particular topic, and that we also see because we're both adjuncts,
Right.
and the teaching adults is totally different than teaching adolescents. They both have their advantages and disadvantages. So any way that
Well,
you cut it, when you're working with adolescents, if you don't, if you're not fascinated by them, if you don't get a kick out of them, if you don't find yourself as frustrating as they are, occasionally laughing to yourself, it's going to be a long career.
right. Right.
That's well said. That is very well said. Yeah. So that's true.
Yeah, and I think the difference with adults, because it is interesting when you think about teaching high school students and then teaching adults and the stress that it's two different levels of stress, right? So the adults that we teach are working adults who are in their careers, who are trying to advance their careers, and get higher degrees. And then you have the high school students who have their own stressors of what they're going through, the million things. Plus, now they got to figure out where they want to go to college at
Yeah.
17, what they want to do with the rest of their life. So they're both experiencing stressors. I think what the difference is, and this is something that really struck me also, a lot of times, educators will say, well, they're in high school, they should know how to do that. And, I was like, but they don't. So now what? So they come and we have these expectations that now that they're a ninth grader, they should know how to read on this level, right? Or do math on this level. And a lot of times what we realize is, but they don't.
Yeah.
So, so I always say we're in the business of educating. We're not in the business of getting rid of kids. We're in the business of educating kids. They're not going someplace else. So, how do we manage what we've been dealt pretty much? And I think the difference here, because there's a lot of students in master's programs who have different skill sets, and they come in and I could have one person, write a counseling research paper for me that is just hits all of the marks, and then I can have somebody else who might be an English language learner who doesn't really write well, but they're both in my master's program, so it's the same thing. I think the difference is the high school students haven't developed the ability to advocate for themselves in the way that the students in college have, even in like higher education, because they know that they don't have the skills, just like I would know if somebody asked me to do something and I could say to them, let me go research it and just figure out how I would approach that and we'll talk it through. Or I would have to say, I have no idea how to do that. You need to find somebody else, right? I
Yeah.
think that the students who are older in our master's programs definitely have the ability to advocate because they've gotten to that level, where as high school, they don't. And what they'll do is they'll shut down or they'll internalize the failing. And even in middle school, rather than ask for help. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces. If we can get them to ask for help before they completely tank, that's part of the battle, right? But they have to trust us in order to do that.
Laura and I she's heard me say this before about the middle school brain. And I was just when you were talking about, because they're in those big bodies, we expect
Mhm.
them to already have these skill sets and they're not there yet. But I did a training for middle school on a PD to the teachers at my own school, I'm not, but I had some PD to do for middle school about the middle school brain for the teachers. And they were just completely new. They teach them every day. They're with them every day. And when they understood what happens to the brain during those middle school years, they were just fascinated. It was almost like, it was like, oh, they were getting it. And they were like, we need more of this. And that's why I think that somehow we're failing our educators by sticking them in classrooms, especially with middle school, because the brain is changing, but they look like adults, but there's things going on, and we're putting them in those classrooms, and they may not have an idea of what the brain is doing during those middle school years. They look like the brain should be fully developed, but they're not. And so that's where I feel like I'm so glad that you all are out sharing the brain's information with the teachers, because it's so valuable.
Mm-hmm. And parents too. We also, do presentations
yeah.
with parents, and because they don't know either, and they're in it, it's like, and how many friends do we have that we've heard from over the years that call us when their kids hit teenage years? And it's just like, help, because they're dealing with a different animal. You just go through changes, and it's hard, because they're trying to figure out who they are. And, these parents who, like, the sun rose and set on you for so many years with these kids, and whatever problems they had, you were able to help them solve it, and they wanted your advice. And then all of a sudden it's like, they don't even want to look at you, So I think a lot of times it's really helpful for parents, as much, right? Would you say as much?
Oh yeah,
as it is for educators to really understand the teenagers.
Yeah, and just in terms of the work that we do, so if we go into a school, what we ideally like to do is some PD, whether it's an hour, a couple of hours, and then especially if we're traveling, to stay for the evening to do a parent presentation as well, because then it's both sets of adults who receive the same information, and our joke is, with the teachers, we always say, don't worry about it, it's the parents' fault. And then when we speak to the parents, it's the teacher's fault.
I love it.
And it's funny because we worked with a school in Brooklyn where they asked us, and this is typically not what we do, to work with the kids.
Yes.
To teach the kids about brain development. And they gave us, we were in an auditorium with what, 200 students?
No, it had to be, it was a huge auditorium, a big Brooklyn school. It had to be 300.
300, 6th to 9th grade. And it was so interesting when we did it, because, the middle school was on one side and the 9th graders were on the other. And the 9th graders could not be bothered with anything that we had to say. They were just too cool. We're not engaging. And the little 6th graders were fascinated, right?
Hands up,
wanting to.
Yes.
So it was so interesting for us to, present to them, to have that span of development in the room, and to present to them, and to see how that they responded. And we had to keep pulling the 9th graders back in.
Yes.
To get them to engage. So I think, though, if you go older, like we've never presented to 10, 11, 12, I think as you go older, they would be more interested.
It's so funny. I've been at the high school level, and when I would be with the entire 9th through 12th grade, my 9th graders turned into my 6th graders in my mind.
Yes. Yep.
And then my 10th, 11th, and 12th grades were really starting to be more adult-esque. They're really, nodding, or, and the 9th graders were like, squirrels on crack or something. And you're like, what? So, I mean, in that, it's so funny. And Laura and I have talked about this. It's like your 6th through 8, if we have middle school 6th through 8th grade, your 6th grade can act like little animals, but then you get in high school and your 9th grade turns into those little,
yes, sorry, I think it's the next level developmentally. I tend to cut him off a lot, don't I?
I know how it feels. No.
And remember, this is the, don't talk about the brain too much. Nobody wants to hear about the brain.
No, I was going to say, I think developmentally, because they've hit a new milestone.
Yeah.
And it's all new again, right? Because I had a group of 8th graders that I taught English to that then went into ninth grade, and I had them as ninth graders, same group of kids, same class, and had the same experience. It was like, where are my, the eighth graders that I had last year who were so mature and they were with
Yeah.
me, and then I get the next year and I'm like, well, what happened over the summer?
Yeah. It is. It's the strangest thing. When you see that. So that's interesting. That I too find that interesting, the behavior of students and some of the stuff that they come up with.
What we've found to be really impactful with teachers is and parents is when we talk about some of the research in rats, that when you take adolescent rats and you put them in a box and they measure their dopamine levels, for every adolescent rat that you add, dopamine levels go up in all the other rats. And the minute that they introduce an adult rat, what they begin to see is the dopamine levels in the adolescents begin to decrease.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually avoid the adult rats. And the closer that they get to the adolescent rats, the higher their dopamine levels get. So we could say that, there's something metaphysical or mystical going on, but what we know is that, just to put it plainly, adults are not cool.
Yeah.
Period, end of story. You may dress hip, you may listen to hip music, you may use the latest expressions and slang, but the minute you pass 21, boom, your coolness has gone out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And what we've also found too in our experience is the more that adults in education can sort of learn to laugh at themselves and their lack of coolness and play it up in a type of authentic way, the kids connect to them because they can, and I'm sure that you all have experienced this.
Yeah, that's so true.
They can see through for all of their executive dysfunction, forgetting things, seeming absent-minded. They can spot an adult's lack of authenticity in a second.
Yeah.
And they'll see right through it. and so over the years, the feedback from parents and educators have been like, that is so true. I can talk to a kid, especially counselors. I've experienced this as well, is I'll be with them one-on-one. And if I go into a classroom session, they're totally different people.
Mm-hmm.
They're with their friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Their dopamine levels are up.
They have an audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That explains so much, doesn't it?
Well, it's things I can see why educators like what you're saying because, oh, that's true. I thought that, but now you're giving voice to it and it really is true. This is the way it is.
And I think the other thing that really, that worked for me when I was teaching and I had those students who were really challenging. And this is part of what our messaging is, the importance of developing relationships. So sometimes that might have been, having them come to my classroom at lunchtime to help me with something, right? Or like in today's world, it would be, and there's often times where I would find who the person in the school was that knew the computers, who was that kid? Or if I had a problem with my phone, I could stop any student in the hallway and they could explain to me, and kind of giving them that sense of agency for themselves, but also allowing them to teach me something, I think is really helpful in developing relationships with them.
I think you're spot on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Letting them be the expert
Giving
on
them
something. Yeah.
Yep. Because we're all learning from each other, right? We really are all learning from each other.
So true. How much resistance do y'all get from teachers who, it may not be as much in Connecticut as it is in the South, because in the South it is, yes, ma'am, no, sir. And, it's just raised a certain way, and it's very hard to break that you do it because we said it. Do y'all have a lot of resistance from teachers who were, in my day, we did what we were told to do? Do you get a lot of that stuff? Because we do.
Yeah, and you could go back and you can say, well, 5,000 years ago, Eileen would cost me a certain amount of money in order to marry her. So
Yeah,
times changed
Right.
quite
that's
a bit.
good. Yeah, that's good.
And the other thing too is even just in a short period of time, what we do in our presentations is we try to get the audience to identify themselves in certain generations. And the boomers will say, well, as a group, this is what we feared. This is what we believed about school. This is what we did for fun. And we usually end up with 4 to 5 groups, and they all have generationally certain types of existential fears. The boomers were afraid of nuclear war,
Right. Yeah.
AIDS,
AIDS.
millennials, the Y2K, 9/11, and terrorism. Gen Z and Alpha Gen seem to be very afraid of gun violence and climate change.
So every generation had something.
Yeah, and so yeah, we hear the traditional we need to respect, but the reality is every generation deals with something different, and
That's so good.
we are teaching to a different generation. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's the times have changed. You can look at what people were saying about Johnny Cash or Elvis Presley, and that's exactly what they said about Justin Bieber, Jim Morrison, Tekashi 69. It's just a different name, but it's the same old message. Generation comes along, and the older generation suddenly says, well, kids today are different.
Yeah.
Yes. Just like you were different than your parents' generation. So there is we honor respect, and every classroom has its own culture. But as a whole, and this research that we use, it's not from Connecticut, it's from different countries across the globe.
Yeah.
And this is so what we see is that a 14-year-old's brain in Canada looks somewhat similar to a 14-year-old's brain in Japan. Their math scores may be different, but in terms of the neural connections, it's very, very similar.
So interesting.
Yeah, and I think also with the teachers, just because I had the same experience. I mean, I went to, Catholic school, and when I walked into my first classroom in the Bronx teaching overage 8th grade students English, it was a whole nother world for me. They were not sitting in rows with their hands, crossed, ready to answer me. It was like, it took me 45 minutes every day to manage them for learning. So that was it was shocking to me that actually went on. But I got that my first year of teaching. So that was very beneficial for me to really have that experience, as challenging as it was. And as much as I doubted whether I was going to continue in education, that was, a learning ground for me that has been so beneficial in my career.
Wow.
Because I realized that is not how they could be sitting there with their hands crossed. They are not learning. And I'm not enjoying that. I don't want to get up and talk to people for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So I want to interact. I want to do something. And for me, a lot of times, and this is no matter what I do, I'm always curious how people are interacting with me, right? Or how people are thinking about something that I'm thinking about. So I'm always checking in for feedback when I'm working with students along the way. And I think that's just my curiosity about them and about people in general. But I think for teachers, just reminding them that this is not the classroom that they grew up in, and the other piece is we had our time. This is not our time. This is their time, and we need to meet them where they are.
I love that whole thing about making them think about how their generation was different from the next generation and really giving them an opportunity to think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, and I forget if it was if it was Laura or Kim, but early on, one of you had mentioned just that those moments where a teacher, an educator, a parent might be just like shocked and go into that mode of like, we need to correct the behavior. This needs to stop right away. There's a researcher, a psychologist, the name escapes me right now. But anyway, he talks about this thing called the reminiscence bump. And it's the long and short of it is it's a period of time during our teen years where we easily recall emotional moments. So I can recite dialogue from the film Jaws. I remember who I went to go see E.T. with. I remember my first kiss. And I also remember when I got detention, when a teacher yelled at me. I remember how my parents reacted to me. And what happens in the reminiscence bump is also at the same time is when we're stressed, we will go back to a default of what we went through as kids. So if that 14-year-old is in front of us saying something, as a parent, we might say, my dad would have done X, Y, and Z to me if I talked this way. And we might react in a certain way, or we might become scared and they show up in our offices and say, what do I do with my kid? Because I can't hit them because you used to be able to do that. I don't want to have these screaming matches anymore. So I think part of the journey also is becoming aware of what are our beliefs about it. And like Eileen was saying, is do we really want kids sitting there with their hands folded? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Or do we want that variety? And speaking of dopamine, the brain loves diversity. The brain craves a variety of experiences. The brain, it doesn't matter if it's the 14-year-old or the 44-year-old teacher.
Yeah.
Sitting in rows, there's no growth going on.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's good. That message is so good and so powerful. If we don't bring experiences and that engagement that you were speaking of, if we're not, then we're not making a memory. We're not making what we're wanting those students to do. I love that. That's so interesting to me. This is so interesting to me. So what's next for you guys? Like what is your next thing? What are you wanting to tackle next, or what are you into right now? What's next for you guys?
Salmon or corned beef? I can't
I
figure
hear you.
out.
It's just
Oh.
it's a lot better than what's happening here. Vienna sausages or peanut butter and jelly. So
What kind of bread though? Because that's what makes the PB&J.
Well, it's going to be light honey wheat is what it's going to be. But what kind do you like? Just the white bread with your peanut butter?
No, see, we're strange.
Oh, now I got to hear it.
Yeah, we do like Dave's bread.
Oh, I love Dave's bread. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Or so we kind of rationalize.
Maybe we're not that strange.
Yeah, we're strange. We try and rationalize the carbohydrates with, oh, look at all the seeds that are in there. This means
I do the same. I do this. I buy it. My thing is I will buy it and then I will default back to the soft white bread, and that Dave's bread will just sit there weighing 20 pounds because of all the seeds that's on top of it. And I've paid twice as much for it. So what do you guys got going on next?
So what's next? So we just came back from
So we're in Nashville, going to Orlando
next.
So we're speaking at a conference down there, a pretty big one, National Catholic Education Association.
Fantastic.
And
yeah,
I also got, I think it was a state, I'm not going to name the state, a school counselor association reached out to do the keynote.
So Terry's doing the keynote.
So we're in negotiation with that. A couple of different schools, Waco and Tampa.
We're in, we have to figure those out.
She keeps saying we should do a podcast.
So that's what
a brain. Yeah, a brain.
Yeah.
Or whatever's on your, right? Whatever you've got going on with you, whatever. Yeah, you've got going on with your life, what you're teaching and doing.
And if we do it, you're our first guests.
Fantastic. We're there. We're so there.
But
Okay.
I want it changed Kim, you'll be in a car. Laura, you'll be in.
We could do that.
Okay.
And it can easily happen that way.
You
I can
just
promise
never
you.
know.
Yeah, so that's kind of like where we're moving, right?
Yeah, and then she's got her coaching business
Yeah.
as well. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that's kind of there's a couple of different balls in the air, which is good. We like variety.
Yeah, that makes it exciting.
So we'll put your information out there so educators can reach you if they want you to speak at their.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't go off on any tangents, did I?
He did really well, right?
I'm in a constant state of tangent, so I don't know. There is no other lane for me than tangent. So you did extremely well.
Thank
I
you
just
very
thought
much.
it was interesting.
And I am beautiful.
And you're beautiful. Gorgeous, I think I said.
Gorgeous. Thank you. 3 snaps and a thumbs up, sister.
There you go. There you go. Oh, thank you guys so
Thank
much
y'all
for
so
coming
much.
down with us. We look
Take
forward
care.
to connecting again sometime. When you
We'd love
get
it.
your podcast, give us a call.
Yeah.
We
All right.
will. We will.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Woohoo! Once again, Laura, you
Home
found
run.
us somebody. Home run. Thank you. Amazing. Amazing.
So amazing.
Is that your cat in the? No, that's your dog that won't die. Okay, I'm
No, I
sorry.
don't have a cat.
I-
That dog just keeps hanging on. I don't even want to talk about him.
I know. How many times have we?
Gotten excited.
You get excited, but at the same time, you're like, I can tell you're going to be sad, but then it's the emotional roller coaster that is his life.
Listen, I really don't think I'm going to be sad. I hate his guts so much. And I'm sorry to all of the animal lovers out there. I know that you are going to think I'm a terrible person, and I do apologize. But I did ask my husband, I said, how many more years do you think he's going to live? And he said, could be up to 3. I cried real tears, Kim. Because I can't
He
imagine.
just keeps going and keeps going. He's on life support. He has oxygen and he keeps on going.
It is so bad. I know my girls love him, and that's the only saving grace that he has. But
I
hate
feel
him.
like they're going to say that about you. They're going to be, she
Could be.
just keeps going and she won't go away.
She just keeps dragging herself into work. And yeah, I think so. Won't retire.
They're already there with me. It's like, she's still here.
Oh, well, so do we have any business to discuss? Or have we been out of this so long we don't even know?
Well, I will say that we have had in April about 4 states that have reached out, and we have said we're coming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
exciting.
we didn't talk about it with one another because we hated one another, but now I'm excited again. Packing our bags, baby.
I hope that I didn't tell them we're not coming whenever I hated your guts. Because I couldn't imagine traveling with you. Actually, I never hated your guts in April. We never hated each other. We just couldn't talk.
True.
So I just didn't want our people to think that there has been drama. There's not.
No, but like any relationship, we have our ups and downs. I really was hating you, April. So
Maybe there are some things you need to talk about with me.
I hear you. I hear you.
Because you are insistent that we
No,
hated each other.
I am like I'm so happy now. I couldn't just seeing your face. It's love all over again. So I'm all in. Well, like us.
Don't. Well, let's say this. You may not realize this, but we do have some products on Teachers Pay Teachers. We don't talk about it a lot, but there are some really great end of the year. If you are like us and you're dragging your tail across the finish line like we are, then we need
And
all
like
the help.
that dog was behind you on the carpet.
Yes. And, we need all the help we can get. And so if you need a great end of the year lesson about transitioning to the next grade level or to the next school, then check out our Teachers Pay Teachers. You did the lesson this week, I believe. And
I did transitioning to middle school and
Are You Yeti?
transitioning. Are You Yeti? for middle school, which was a really good transition lesson. It's really, really good, if I do say so myself. The kids love it because they got into this Bigfoot Yeti debate, and even the
Oh.
teacher. I have one of those teachers who is all things Star Wars, Yeti, nerdy, and he got right in there and had all this information for the kids. So we did that lesson, and then I did that do not be
Donut.
afraid of high school, which is the middle schoolers love that lesson, and I gave them donuts. So
Oh, well,
I
who
mean,
wouldn't
you
love
can't go wrong with that. So yeah, it's been busy, and did a be prepared day for adulting yesterday,
How'd that
and
go?
it went so good. But I did go in to the 7th and 8th grade, all of them, because it's the end of the year, and in the state of Alabama, we're near the end. I mean, I know some are still going, and they're like, wow, y'all were near the end. We're like 2-3 weeks out. And so they're just, middle schoolers. And so I told them, I made them think that if they looked sideways, that they would not become an adult.
Oh, okay.
This isn't adulting. And I said, it was just funny. Looking back on it now, I think I scared them. They have never, the people who came and presented at the 7 rotations were like, this is the best school we've ever presented at. And
Aw, good.
but some of them were saying, but they really wouldn't talk. And I was like, because I would look through and give them that,
Stink
you know,
eye. Yeah.
the stink eye, that like the teacher from Matilda, and they were like, Miss Crumbly's got her crazy eyes on. But they did have fun, fed them hot dogs, and had them big bag of goodies and all that kind of stuff. So it was good. It was good. Yeah, I
Good.
need to
Well-
really do that on Teachers Pay Teachers, because other people may want to do that. Be prepared. And
I
put
was
that-
just about to say that's a whole podcast episode we may want to do
absolutely 'Cause
another time.
It's I
because
think that's a really good idea.
yeah. So stay tuned because we'll be telling you all about that because it was a genius idea and you had a lot of help, and that's a whole podcast
That's a whole thing
episode too.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So very good. All right. So check out our Teachers Pay Teachers. Also, as you know, we have a book, Growing Your Program for School Counselors. People are still signing up to attend our Behavior Detour conference because at this point, it's freestanding. You can watch those sessions until December. So each week we are getting more people signing up for that and just watching it at their leisure. So feel free to sign up and do that. And we have some exciting things in the works, and I don't think we're ready to talk about those yet, but good things are coming.
That's absolutely true.
Okay. All right. So you can follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, and sometimes you can watch these on YouTube.